We have the image quality that we need. What we need is more functionality out of the cameras. But you're saying open gate's maybe not one of them that's a requirement or something we should be pushing for. So I'd love to get your take.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts, obviously. I'm
Well,
a conflicted individual.
we're live for another hour and a half, so go for it.
Okay, well, buckle up. No. I'm a conflicted individual because I have sort of like, there's a camera reviewer side of me, but then there's also the person who, watches the same content and thinks that everybody's full of shit, including me. So it's kind of like I have like two takes on everything. It's like the consumer version and then also the reviewer version. And so there's a lot of hypocrisy in my mind. The toilet content thing, by the way, just so in case you were slightly offended, the origin of that comment is that we never have control over the end purpose of anything. And like people have been fighting this forever, is like, Tom Cruise making PSAs about turning off motion smoothing on TV or whatever. It's like everybody thinks they're making art, and then some bozo's just like ruining it. And I feel like 9:16 content is destined for like the lowest common denominator of viewing. Like just it's like no matter what you do to it, it's not going a place you want it to go. Which is why I think like obviously if you're getting paid by a brand and a brand wants something, then give them what they want. Get money, and if you can charge more for doing something else, then get that money. I just mean as an end user, it's like probably not the most important quality tier. But to answer the question about my sort of conflicting thoughts on OpenGate, I think, as I said in my video, that unless a feature somehow breaks something else, and then you have to make an actual decision on, ooh, should we include this because it will compromise this or that, then, give all the features you can give, because it's better to have them. And then maybe, and I can't imagine that Sony isn't aware that you can get more customers by appealing to more people. I mean, this is the simplest concept imaginable when it comes to marketing. I do have a bunch of complicated thoughts on Sony's engineering, though, that we can get into later if you want, which is sort of like what I think is the answer to firmware problems from Sony, why there's no 30p in H265, but also why their batteries work so well. I think there's an answer to all that, and I have a theory. But let's assume for just a minute that putting OpenGate in an A7 V doesn't really break anything, and it still can be a pretty good photo camera and also shoot video and everything else. Then yeah, you should throw it in there, because why not, right? It's not like it's going to hurt your brand identity. Like, we are the brand of of non-OpenGate. They've never really made that stance, so who cares? However, my approach in the video, which there's such a sensitive Lumix versus Sony thing going on right now, and I don't know why. Excuse me. Why it's specifically those two brands? I in that. So by the way, I had to cut that video I posted was 3 minutes long, but it was 7 minutes of me talking, and then I was like, wait, how long can you post a reel? And it was like 3 minutes. It's like, oh crap, I got to cut some of this out. One of the things that I cut out was mentioning two brands by name, and also justifying why it's in my Sony video. And so I'll give that to you now. You'll get the edit part that I cut out of my video, which was that I was gonna put that OpenGate rant probably 2 videos ago, and then definitely gonna put it in the Canon video. But I thought it doesn't make sense to put in the Canon video because Canon added it. So now if I complain about OpenGate, it's kind of like I'm saying, oh, Canon did something right, let me crap on it. It's like it doesn't make any sense, right? And so I was like, I'll make it its own video. And I was like, that's not a video. Like a 3 minute, like, did you know you can zoom? Like, that's a stupid video. It feels like clickbait, right? So then I was like, okay, I guess I can stick in the Sony video. It's gonna come across as like Sony apologizing if I put it in the Sony video. So let me stick it at the end. I'll put it all the way at the end, and I'll even start off by saying like, I'm not apologizing for Sony. They should have had it in the camera. But if you're a consumer who's just been hearing about OpenGate online, you're like, what's this open? Why is I was going to get the A7 V, but everybody's saying it doesn't have OpenGate. I expected that to happen in advance.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of wanted to address those people and say, hey, if the A7 V up to this point sounded like, ooh, you know what? I think that might be the solution to what I was looking for. I'm going to bump up from APS-C, or I've been waiting to get a full frame camera, but I heard A7 IV was too slow. I think maybe A7 V might be the move. But then you're on social and somebody's like, doesn't have OpenGate, set it on fire. Then I wanted to be like, hey, maybe you don't need it. And do you want me to show you some? And so I spent a little time showing those people, because here's the thing. And that's why I said you should probably have a Lumix anyway. It wasn't me saying sell all your Sony shit and buy Lumix. It was me saying, if you're an anamorphic enthusiast, you probably already are aware of where you're at, what system you're on. You're probably de-squeezing on Lumix and using anamorphic stabilization and stuff over there. You're not listening to me right now. So that's fine, you know?
Yeah.
But if you're somebody who is going to get the A7 IV, but is like, what? No, what does OpenGate mean? Does that mean my camera's junk? No, your camera's fine. It's fine. You're fine. Everything's fine. You can make what you need to make.
I think for, you know, at least when I watched your video, especially that section of it, the one thing that we have heard multiple times from brands, and like I've heard this said from somebody within the Sony team, is that like, we know what you guys need. And so that's what we're going to put in the cameras. And I think people are asking for OpenGate. And this is like, I got a few messages about this. And I think the concern was, especially because you have such a voice in the camera space. Like, not only do consumers like watch your content, but like shooters and filmmakers, like, you know, people who do this for a living, like
they
myself,
wait for your video to drop.
Wait for your video to drop. But then I think you have the ability to also reach the executives, because I don't think there's a brand out there who doesn't know who you are and doesn't feel the weight of what you say, almost in a sense of where like you speak for us in a manner or sense, just because of like the size and because of your content. And like, rightfully so, you've earned that with all the great content you put out. And so I know for a lot of people, myself included, when we heard you say like, you know, this isn't a feature that is necessary, the fear became, oh, will Sony feel validated in not putting it in this camera and feel like this is something that they don't need to be pushing for in their cameras? Because to me, as somebody who does this on a regular basis, like you said, like, if you can put it in there, put it in there. But don't think that you don't. And definitely don't feel validated in the fact that it's not in the camera. So that was sort of where my thoughts came from. But before I let you go through, I'm going to have Vu sort of express his side as well, because there was two sides to this coin. And Vu obviously had a very opposite side opinion. And so I wanted to... What you laughing for, dog? This man, because Vu's a little unhinged. What we'll do is I'll have you sort of express sort of like why you thought OpenGate is such a necessity on this camera, or on cameras, I guess, coming out today.
I actually didn't even necessarily disagree with Gerald completely. I actually agree that if you're just shooting stuff like this, and 9x16, if I got to recrop, is generally fine. It's really like on the field. So like I do a lot of weddings, and now if you're not doing vertical edits on Instagram, you're probably not going to be getting booked as much. Like all of the most successful wedding videographers I see out there, they're doing these vertical cutoff reels. And when you're like out on the field and you're trying to film and also like maintain your framing and all that stuff, I don't want to back up. You know, I don't want to back up like this. And now I still have bokeh because I'm using like a D-bag f1.8 lens for no reason. But like, I started using the OpenGate on Lumix, and I'm like, just film it as is. And then when I go back, I just have more space. You know, it's a difference between if you have two people like bride and groom holding hands. It's literally a difference between like them getting cut off at the shoulders and them being in frame for like a vertical reel.
Mm-hmm.
And I can film as I want and don't have to think about how I'm going to frame later because I have the headroom. Speaking of headroom, like, is my audio sounding like some straight trash or? Because I'm not on like that podcast life with like this thing going on. live on stream like this.
Keep doing that for about 5 more seconds.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that's getting clipped. I think you forget who our audience is, bro. You just set yourself up, bro. That's gonna be
care.
How will you turn that into a meme?
I do stupid stuff like this. like put my face up on the damn like camera like that. Like,
Nah, you're good.
I've been done.
So Gerald, I guess my question is, this man is still playing with a Rubik's Cube.
He's got to complete the cube.
He's got to complete. How far along is the cube, by the way?
Oh, I've been over it like 4 more times since we talked last. You know, it's because I just turned 40 and I was like, and this thing sits on my shelf and I try to do it once a week so that I can keep it kind of fresh. And I was like, it's been a couple weeks. I should do it a few times to like make sure I could still remember the algorithms and do the muscle memory. You get dumber and slower as you get old, man. It's like I gotta keep up.
So when it comes to the open gate, like I know obviously I had mentioned the point of like wanting to push the brands to put this into the camera. Like I know it's not maybe a like, because I was telling you the ZR doesn't have open gate, but it has become like my main working camera. And while do I wish it was in there? Yes. Every time I talk about it, or if I talk to somebody at Nikon, I'm like, figure it out. I don't know what it's going to take. I'm not an engineer. Please figure it out. Do you see open gate as that type of a feature? Like, do you see it as something that needs to be put into cameras going forward? Cam Mackey said Gerald got that 16:9 Rubik's Cube, by the way.
So 2 things. One, you mentioned before cutting over to Vu or whatever, but I guess maybe it's somewhat of like the impact of like me letting them off easy. If I make a video and it's like, don't worry, it's not necessary, then Sony's like, phew, if it's not necessary, I mean, I don't have to figure out how to do it. My answer to that is that YouTubers, it myself included, grossly overestimate our relevance in the camera sphere. Within our own bubble of like the audience and people who care about I always try to compare it to like magazine folks of the old days of cars, where they were like, they would go to a car thing and they would say, did you hear what's coming out? The new McLaren, it can do whatever. And those people are talking, right? But McLaren doesn't make a car based on that conversation. Those people think that they're hyped and they follow the trends and they know what's going on and they have the conversations about it. And then now there is YouTube for car stuff, and there are YouTube videos about everything else. But I would imagine in the camera space that when it comes to Sony making a camera, the percentage that the entire discourse that happens online from YouTubers, Instagram Reels, Threads, clapbacks, live streams about it, like all that stuff, it's got to be like 5% at most. Like I think it's an insignificant portion. Now that's not me trying to like brush off, so I can say whatever I want. I have no responsibility. That's not what I'm trying to say. It's just that YouTubers put way more emphasis on themselves as having power, and the audience puts too much blame on YouTubers for influence that they don't have. And I think this is because of 2 things. Lead times on cameras are extremely long. Mm-hmm. Even if it's like even if it looks like an A7 IV is a direct response to a Canon R6 Mark III, there might be something that is like it could be a marketing message that is, or it could be what they push forward in their thing. But they were working on this shit 4 years ago. Like as soon as the A7 IV came out, they were probably like, okay, Sony Semiconductor, let's get cracking on a new sensor for the next one. And by the time we're talking about something 6 months ago, that's not going to have an impact on it. That stuff's already set in stone. And especially with Sony, because they are like a hyper optimized philosophy in design or whatever, which is, I was alluding to this earlier, which is why you can get really good battery efficiency and things like that. But why every time there's a firmware update, they release a firmware update and then the next day go, don't install that. No. That stop right there. You know, our mistake.
All right, so if you enjoyed this clip, do us a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button because we would love for you to join the community. Here, we're just a bunch of nerds who love camera gear and love talking about it every single week, which we do live at 11 o'clock Central Standard Time. So hit that subscribe button so you don't miss that and you don't miss any of the other clips.